Always a pleasure to have you on. I am Pius Kojo Baka. To our very first story, Fitch Solutions has maintained its 2.9% growth rate for Ghana in 2023, despite the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank all forecasting below 2% expansion of the economy this year. Now, according to the research and market information firm, the expected growth rate will remain below the 5-year pre-pandemic average of 5.3%. There is more in this report.
In its latest report, Ghana dubbed Ghanaian economy will underperform in 2023 and 2024, Fitch Solutions said fiscal austerity efforts will put a damp on private consumption through 2023, clouding economic growth prospects. It furthered that the new taxes introduced as part of the International Monetary Fund program will exert downward pressure on purchasing power and thereby weaken the outlook for private consumption. In addition, a rise in taxes will slow the pace of disinflation over the coming quarters. It stressed that while a more stable exchange rate and moderating global commodity prices will see price growth moderate over the coming quarters, inflation will remain sticky to the upside as tax increases will result in further upward adjustments to consumer prices. Meanwhile, Fitch Solutions is forecasting a real gross domestic product growth to accelerate 3.7% in 2024. However, it will remain below the 5-year pre-pandemic average of 5.3%.
And pretty soon we'll go to our next story where President Akufo-Addo is optimistic that the IMF program will help turn things around for the economy. One of the key areas that is keenly watching are the resumption of stalled infrastructure projects and unlocking of frozen donor inflows. But will this be realized? George Yafe has the rest of the story.
For some analysts, it was one of the major reasons that forced Ghana to sign up to the IMF program, that is, helping to restore confidence in the economy. This was after the country's fiscal situation worsened, with Ghana's debt reaching levels that can be described as unsustainable. Therefore, it was not out of place that when President Akufo-Addo addressed the nation, he maintained that with the IMF deal now concluded, that should help in dealing with this challenge. For instance, the U.S. International Development Corporation has announced a $300 million funding for a data center in Ghana. For some, this is an example of the country's donors responding to the IMF deal. This is because with some of these countries, they are looking at these institutions taking the lead to extend support to Ghana before they follow. However, Joy Business is learning that there are other development partners that are looking forward to see how Ghana will perform under its first IMF program review, which should take place before the end of this year. Now, after that development, then some of them will move fast to advance some financial support to Ghana. The resumption of donor funding could happen in the coming months. However, others might come only after Ghana passes the first IMF program review. The World Bank is working to advance some $1 billion to Ghana under this IMF program that the country has secured.
Now, to one of our headline stories, and President Akufo-Addo has lifted a ban on borders for cross-border trading activities to resume. This follows the declaration by the World Health Organization that COVID-19 is no longer a global health emergency. Take a listen to him.
There are 10,566,420 fully vaccinated people. That is 52.7% out of the 20 million target we had set, with 4,599,883 persons having received booster doses. In the light of these facts, the COVID-19 task force, which I chair, met on 17th May and took some far-reaching decisions on the measures we have put in place for the management of the pandemic, which were announced by the Ghana Health Service on 19th May. The most important of these decisions was that the COVID-19 pandemic was over in Ghana. Thus, all the outstanding COVID-induced restrictions at our airports and all entry points have been lifted, and we're back to the pre-COVID situation as far as health entry requirements are concerned.
President Akufo-Addo there, and we've been joined by the president of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Dr. Joseph Abing, for his perspective on this. Pleasure you could join me, sir, on Business Live. Now, I'm pretty sure you watched the president yesterday. What does this easing of the border restrictions in terms of transportation of goods mean to the business community? How are your members reacting to this news?
Yeah, it's good news. At least now we are going to be spared by the fact that government always quotes COVID-19 as the problem of the economy. Now that we all know that we are over this menace, then of course we have to also give a different approach of our economy and stop using the COVID as an excuse. And that's if there's any organizations or people who have suffered the most of the effect of the pandemic, it is the business community. And that were even made to pay taxes on this COVID, which is very unfortunate. There's no precedent anywhere in the world that while businesses are suffering under the effect of COVID, they were still made to pay COVID tax anywhere in the world except Ghana. That's why we are expecting that the COVID tax is a one-purpose tax that was brought to cushion the effects of the COVID. Once we are over it, then of course we should remove it without any excuses. The taxes that we pay here is too much. The number of taxes that we pay in Ghana is overburdening the business community to the extent that we are uncompetitive in the sub-region. You remember the three taxes that were imposed on us. They are obnoxious and all that. These are all not helping us. We said that the tax component, the tax to GDP in the sub-region, ours is the lowest among the sub-region. It is true, because ours is, we cannot comply with ours because the excessive taxes that we pay. The others, other countries, their taxes are not as many as ours, and therefore there's affordability here, and compliance is very high. So it's due to compliance in these countries that have made them to achieve tax to GDP being higher than that of Ghana. So we don't have to be increasing these taxes. And if we are done with the COVID, then of course we're expecting that the COVID levy, which has no precedence anywhere, should at least be taken off the table.
Now, I want to find this from you. Now that we've seen the restrictions lifted, how does this translate into reduction in the prices of goods? Because during the COVID-19 time, we saw prices of goods going up due to the rigorous checks your members had to undergo, which of course came to you at a cost. So now that it's been lifted, are we to see some reduction in the prices of goods?
Prices of goods and services are tied up to the economic indicators, exchange rate, interest rate, and the inflation. So if there's no improvement here, then of course we are not going to see any improvement in the prices positively to affect the consuming public. It's as simple as that. So we have to do everything possible to reduce the cost of doing business, and that we don't have to do unnecessary speculation that price is going to go down or up. Prices are tied up to these indicators that I've mentioned. If inflation is high, if interest rate, cost of borrowing is over 40%, if exchange rate is also high, it's very volatile these days. It goes down and it goes up. There's no stability in there. If there's stability, then of course it will also affect prices positively.
All right, so do you hold the view that in as much as the border restrictions have been lifted now, it doesn't mean that there shouldn't be the necessary checks before any goods are transported into the respective countries to check the importation of substandardized goods?
But we should also know that even during the COVID time, there was business as usual. So this one doesn't bring anything new. And so I don't expect anything that is coming out of this restriction, because business have been usual since 2021, thereabout to date. Yeah.
Finally, let me pick your views on the maintenance of the COVID-19 health recovery levy. I know you've touched extensively on that, but really, how are you going to comply? Would you, of course, you would have to. I don't know what that would mean to you translated into the cost of production and what have you, thereby, increasing prices as well.
It is already part of our cost component because it is an old tax since 2021, and it is a part of our cost component. So once the government is maintaining, then of course it will be passed on to the consuming public, and that's the very important thing. That's why when you started talking about the COVID restrictions being lowered, I just centered on that because I believe that when we are done over with the COVID, then of course the COVID levy, we don't have any precedent anywhere, and it should be taken off the table. Already, there are new taxes that are being imposed on us. When is the business community going to have some respite in terms of tax payment? It's very important that we do not do one-sided economy, that all that we seek in the economy is to raise revenue, while we do not think about the growth of businesses. If you do not think about the growth of businesses, how do you even enhance on your revenue? But business will grow, and then you can have more of the revenue that you seek. So we have to balance. Otherwise, that's why we keep on piling these taxes, and we are not even getting the worth of the revenue that we seek because you are stifling the growth of businesses. How do you get even more? You won't get more. So we have to put the whole thing on the scale and balance it. Whether we should keep on piling the taxes and then suppress the growth of businesses. Is that what we do our economics here?
Is this something you intend pursuing to ensure that government, take a look at the levies now that the pandemic is over? So really, what's the essence of it or taxing you with it? So do you think you would pursue, or what plans do you have in that regard to have it scrapped?
Yeah, already we are seeking stakeholder engagement regarding the trade taxes that were imposed on us. With regard to those taxes, it's not that business community relaxed for government to have its way. We were rather trapped because of the conditionality of the IMF, and that if that one is part of the conditionality, then we're being cautious not to throw the whole thing out because government have admitted that they need the IMF to rescue the economy. And then I think that's the general understanding of the Ghanaian public that we need the IMF. So we have to be cautious and then make sure that we do not spoil. That's why we do not overly agitate over the trade taxes. But now that the IMF deal has gone through, we'll still pursue government and dialogue with government so that at least in the mid-year budget, we can make some revisions so that businesses can also have respite. We believe that any proposal that we give to IMF, because they do not seek the destruction of businesses, we can still go on the table, discuss with IMF to see how some of these taxes will be lowered to pushing the businesses in the country.
We are grateful, Dr. Joseph Obeng, for your time here on Business Live. Let's move on to some other stories. Still on COVID, though, President Akufo-Addo has kept the COVID-19 levy despite calls on him to scrap it as the government lifts the COVID restrictions. The COVID-19 health recovery levy on the supply of goods and services and imports was meant to raise revenue to support the fight against COVID-19. The president, in an address to the state last night, said although the 1% tax is unpopular, government would continue to charge the levy.
Let me make it clear that COVID expenditures, essentially unplanned, have been subject at my instigation to audit by the Auditor General and are going through parliamentary processes. We all deserve to be reassured that the crisis was not used as a cover for corrupt practices. The COVID health recovery levy that was introduced to help fill some of the expenditure holes might not be the most popular tax, but I entreat all of you to bear with us. The COVID Trust Fund has performed an invaluable service, and with these developments has reached the end of its mandate. I thank the trustees as well as all donors and contributors to the fund. It is likely, God willing, that this will be the last in the series of fellow Ghanaian speeches on COVID.
Well, Associate Professor of Finance at Andrews University in the USA, Professor Williams Prepra, has responded to this development, saying that given the nation's current economic crisis, the government's approach is prudent.
From what the president has said, my inclination is that the president wants to use the COVID-19 levy to increase revenue mobilization in the country. Where we find ourselves as a country in Ghana, we need to find a way to increase the revenue. The alternative for the government is probably go to Parliament and change the name of the tax. That's all, and then you have to justify why that 1% store will have to still be there. That will probably settle the debate that is ongoing. But from the look of things, it has come to stay, and until we get out of these financial challenges we find ourselves in as a country, this 1% will still be on our books. If we strengthen the hand of the internal audit agency in the country and allow them to work, I'm sure we'll be able to find a way to stop this issue of accountability, which is not well done. That was, remember, it was a precondition from IMF that gave way for the 3 billion. We have still not even accounted for, we only accounted for the money we received, but not the one coming from the VAT component, this 1%. And I'm sure a lot of, even the president admitted it in his speech, that people use it to perpetrate some mismanagement of funds. But I'm sure the audits will be able to bring a lot of these facts out. If the core system works very well, and those who went foul will be taken to court, and then probably ask them to pay back the money that they took.
You're still watching Business Live here with me, Pius Kojo Baka. More after this break. Hello, welcome back. The Chamber of Independent Power Producers, Distributors and Bulk Consumers is threatening to cut power supply to the national grid by the end of June if government fails to settle its debt. This could create a huge power shortfall as the IPPs control over 65% of the available thermal generation capacity in the country. Now, we are learning that as of April 2023, the government owed the IPPs $1.63 billion. Now, the IPPs had indicated it would not restructure debt owed by the government. Ghana aims to cut $10.5 billion in interest payments in on its external debt in 3 years to be able to successfully implement a $3 billion loan deal from the International Monetary Fund. Meanwhile, energy strategist Dr. Yusuf Suleimana is calling for further engagement between government and the IPPs. He warned that if the IPPs should follow through with its threat to cut power supply by the end of next month, Ghana might experience doomsday again.
If they go ahead to execute the threat as per the way they announce it, there's going to be a serious problem, within the energy sector, especially the power sector, for instance. Now, if you look at how the IPP came to the picture, they came as a result of the fact that we had so much deficit in power generation, and so you remember Dumso as a whole, in particular, somewhere 2015, 2016. And so when they came, actually they did a lot of good for the fact that they were able to make up the shortfalls within the power generation side. So if you look at it, yes, even though they came, they signed some contracts that were a bit draconian, if I may put it that way, but they were able to relieve us from, the power shortages. So yes, and they have come to stay. They've done so well to be able to make up for the generation side. So over the years, the generations have been robust, and we owe that credit mostly to to some of these IPPs. I have to be very frank with you. Though I'm not very comfortable with some of the contract that they signed at then, because we were so constrained and they just have to squeeze it to sign some of the contract that we signed. And nevertheless, I think going forward, the government has to come and sit with them, just to come to a very good understanding. Otherwise, them taking some power out of the picture is not going to be welcoming. It's definitely going to lead to another potential doom. So if they go to execute what they're threatening, cutting power to the grid it shouldn't happen.
Moving on, some residents of the Techiman municipality of the Bono East region have condemned the recent hike in utility tariffs as announced by the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission. The residents contend that the 18% increment will compound the already worsening economic hardship and are appealing to government to rescind the decision. My colleague Anas Sabit has been engaging some consumers and has filed the following report.
The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission has announced an increase of 18.36% in average end-user electricity consumer tariff for the second quarter of this year, and this, according to some residents of the Techiman municipality of the Bono East region, would compound the already worsening economic hardships in the country. These residents, who have been expressing disappointments in the PURC, says Ghanaians are already struggling with the hikes in the prices of goods and services, and this would worsen their plight.
As for the bills, especially the light bill, it's very too much. See, like young boy like me, I've been paying light bill like 130 cedis a month. My monthly salary is almost 330. So how can I make life? The bills is too much. Like they have to reduce us for us. Next time maybe we won't get life. Please, the thing is there is too much. It's too much for the youth.
To me, the mete anyamede because she said the ete that dano yentimi ano adin yami animi the ete no ano adin papa because say me use 200 winnings a month which we are almost 100 and something, which is me income krana eba enuru be me ne de now say the bibe ka ho which means 100 winnings na me third month no beto abro which means me almost 200 Ghana.
These residents say they were already faced with declining profit margins on their products and services, and the implementation of the new tariff would make life difficult for them.
18% yes, you may say, catch me about a basis of crop. It's a wine who be young coy. Bokuna wako wine pay. But you see, I will see you be some beam. It's 18% developed material. Say, I buy one and wash a pa. You must have something, you want in your crowd. Catch one in your crowd.
The work we are doing. We things is not easy, and if the work I'm doing to pay electricity, light bill, water bill, and school fees and all that, I can't survive. So they have to do something about it.
Salifu, also known as Officer, is afraid the new tariff, if not checked, would lead to a rise in illegal collections by consumers.
We see the electricity, how they increase the price. It can't help because the price that we are paying, we are still complaining. And someone is coming to add. So this it let people, it will let illegal become more because I can't sleep darkness. I have to use light and I can't get the money to pay. When I get illegal, I must use it. So VR people, it will help them.
They are all appealing to government and the PURC to reconsider this decision and work towards maintaining the current tariff to save their businesses from collapsing.
And that's it for Business Live for today. I am Pius Kojo Baka. Always a pleasure serving you. You can always get business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. Let's connect same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.